Hello everybody, today we're doing something different. Silver Jolteon here with a commentary. Le gasp. Well, as you know, I really like watching videos on YouTube, especially the gaming videos, and I do like rants. You know, I understand some criticism, not everyone likes Pokemon and stuff, but I can take it if the arguments are valid and good. I'll admit, nothing is perfect. But there's this one video. The reason I'm bringing it up is because the arguments he makes are so wrong and misinformed. Let's begin with the Gamer of Mars Pokemon Battle Revolution video, shall we?
When I was little, I bought Pokemon Stadium for the Nintendo 64 and I loved it. Even though there was no adventure to go on like the handheld games, it was incredible to see your Pokemon fight in 3D after only being able to watch them on a small Game Boy screen. About a year later, Pokemon Stadium 2 was released with even more features and access to second generation Pokemon.
Yes, and then Battle Revolution came along, giving you access to 3rd and 4th gen Pokemon in 3D. So basically what you said thus far, it really stands up to what it was supposed to do.
These games may just seem like cash-ins on Pokemon's success. They were fun and offered a lot of features that extended the life of the Game Boy games.
And Battle Revolution extended the life of the DS games. Isn't that right? After all, people kept playing it. Didn't stop people from buying it and continuing to play their DS games. I think Ranch is the one that was the most disappointing Pokemon game. To say this one blows everything out of the water after what you're saying, let's just continue. This is where it gets really bad.
So when I was little, I hoped to see a 3rd installment on the GameCube, but it never was released. While Pokemon Coliseum and XT were fun, they revolved around a single-player campaign, while Pokemon Stadium made your television a hub for the handheld versions.
Meat face! Honestly, this is what really gets to me. It's that no one wants to acknowledge that the GameCube games existed, and how misinformed people are about them. What he just said was that the GameCube games only revolved around a single-player campaign. No, they could do exactly what what Stadium and Stadium 2 did. Look, on the menu screen, you can select either the story campaign or the battle mode. In the battle mode, you could hook up your Game Boy to the system and play with your teams via in 3D. That would be basically more or less a 3rd gen Stadium with a single player adventure. So yes, it could also act as a hub for your Game Boy games.
So it's no surprise that I was excited when Pokemon Battle Revolution was announced for the Wii. This game was publicized to be the unofficial Pokemon Stadium 3.
Says who? You? Well, good for you, that was your own opinion. Guess what? It isn't.
After months of reading updates and watching previews, I finally had my own copy, and boy was I disappointed. The first problem I encountered in Pokemon Battle Revolution were the Pokemon themselves. You see, in Pokemon Stadium, you were able to rent out any Pokemon you wanted. This was great if you felt like trying out a different Pokemon, or if you had a friend over that didn't have a Pokemon game but still wanted to play. But in Pokemon Battle Revolution, they scratched that idea, in favor of letting you select from 2 sets of 6 mediocre predetermined Pokemon.
Okay then, but since you owned a DS game, what was the problem? This is why you research a game before you purchase it. Shut up.
So if you want to pick your Pokemon, you have to have a DS version, and if you don't, this game becomes completely worthless just from that.
No, because you can still use the rental Pokemon while completing the main campaign. I should know, I did it before I had my Diamond version.
The next problem are the Wi-Fi battles. Pokemon Battle Revolution was advertised as the first online game for the Nintendo Wii, and I'm not surprised by that at all. There are 2 options in the online mode, battle a friend or battle a random person. That's it.
Yeah, and that's how it is in black and white too.
There's no leaderboards, rankings, or any other basic online functionalities you'd expect.
This is where my next complaint comes in. How? How do you want to do leaderboards and ranking in Pokemon games? It doesn't seem possible or make any sense whatsoever. I mean, sure, you could base it off of how many battles you've won, or what's your level. But that isn't going to stop people from using action replays and EV training and, in the end, it's just going to be impossible. And even then, how are you going to tell what the Pokemon you have is? You can't just go up to somebody and say, hey, I want to battle you because you're ranking number 1, and all of a sudden he pulls out an Eevee that knows Sheer Cold, that never misses. Yeah, that really doesn't sound fair, now does it? You can't exactly implement something on that element and then just change that. In the end, if they did have a leaderboard, you'd probably complain about that now, wouldn't you? See what I mean?
And even the random Wi-Fi battle system is broken. The problem is that when you want to battle someone, you have to select what Coliseum you want to play in and if you want a single or double battle. The problem with this is that you have to wait for another person to pick the same exact Coliseum and battle type as you to start a match with them. I remember even back in the first month the game was out, I had to wait close to 5 minutes for a battle.
Ooh, as opposed to Brawl's 10-minute wait.
And when I finally found one, it was usually just a kid with one of the Pokemon sets that the game provides to you.
That's just your own sheer dumb luck. You could have gotten somebody else, or you could have gotten the same kid how many times? And you're not going to be able to stop kids on the internet. Honestly, I don't see what you're getting at.
This could have easily been resolved if the game allowed you to see who's waiting for a challenger, plus a ranking system so that experienced players don't fight against beginners.
Again with the ranking system. See, back to the other thing. You cannot put a ranking system in Pokemon. It doesn't make sense. You're going to have hacking and everything else in there. And you can't basically just judge something on how level it is. Just because the Pokemon is at another level doesn't mean that you're specifically going to be better at it. And if you have the ability to see what Pokemon your opponent has, you can just go back to the main menu, switch your team around, and be able to easily defeat them. That kind of kills the fun, doesn't it?
While these first two flaws hinder your experience by themselves, the worst thing about this game is the selection of game modes. You remember how in Pokemon Stadium you could play your handheld Pokemon games on your television? Yeah, well, you can't do that here.
Yes, you can. It's called the DS function. You can play the DS game on your television with the DS as a controller. What's the difference? Honestly, in the Stadium, you only had the Game Boy as your controller. So having the DS as your controller is the same exact thing. You can play a DS game on your TV. I don't think in Stadium that you could just, oh, I know, I'll plug my red version in here. Yeah, I didn't think so.
Here. Do you remember those fun 4-player minigames that Pokemon Stadium had? Well, Battle Revolution doesn't have those either. If you don't include the basic fighting mode and broken Wi-Fi, the only thing we have here is a Coliseum mode where you can fight against some trainers. Then go to a different Coliseum where you can fight against some different trainers and so on.
And then you can go to Wi-Fi and battle a trainer. And then battle another trainer. And then battle some other trainer on Wi-Fi and You see, this is just where it gets repetitive. You are complaining about battling in a Pokemon game. A Pokemon game that is specifically based around battling. The same thing can be said about Stadium. You can battle some Stadium trainers. And then battle some Stadium trainers. And battle some more AI-controlled Stadium trainers!
The main reward you get for this repetitious fighting is money that can be used to buy items that customize your trainer.
Or Wi-Fi items and Pokemon as well, like Electivire and Magmortar.
But they don't even show you what the item looks like until after you buy it. Pokemon Battle Revolution obviously didn't have that much work put into it. While some other Pokemon spin-off games aren't that great, at least I could commend them on trying something different. This game follows the same formula as a game made 7 years before it on the Nintendo 64, and it still fails miserably.
You are comparing a Wii game to a Nintendo 64 game on the basis that it doesn't have good Wi-Fi, because it was one of the first Wii games to actually implement Wi-Fi. Of course, you're going to have some technical issues with it. And Stadium didn't have Wi-Fi. Does that make it bad? Does that make it boring and repetitive because it's just Pokemon battles? I'm going to just stop before I lose more brain cells. This has been Silver Jolteon, and this has been a commentary. Don't expect more of them.